the one and only Sam Adonis. Very excited for this conversation. Sam is actually going to be competing in Toronto this coming Thursday, April 27th. That's tomorrow if you're watching us live. Against whom? I don't know. Maybe we can get that out of him because I know Demand Lucha, who are running the show in Toronto at Parkdale Hall. I don't think they've announced an opponent yet, but you know what? I think he's here. And if he's ready, he can give me a thumbs up and we can get right to it. Ladies and gentlemen, the AAA Rey Reyes champion and our number one babyface in all of our hearts, it's Sam Adonis. Hey, Sam, how you doing?
I am wonderful. How are you two this afternoon or morning or whatever it is, whatever time of the day it is where you are?
Doing all right.
Doing well. Yes, thank you for being here.
I'm just recuperating from a very long weekend. I had 4 days in the West Coast, and then I'm home here for about 12 more hours. Then I head up to Toronto. And I'm back in Mexico this Saturday, so it's a crazy, crazy busy schedule these days, but it's where we all want to be, you know?
Yeah, that's a wild grouping of dates to be doing. You're a road warrior right now. What's like the must-have, must-do when you're on the road or when you're preparing to go out for a long stint like that?
Just be prepared. Honestly, I have my my satchel, if you will, my man purse, and I have to have everything with me at all times. That's the thing that I've learned, you know, to be prepared with everything. Now, honestly, more than ever, I like downtime. I really enjoy just being in the hotel room by myself. You know, I never thought I'd get to that point because, you know, as a young wrestler, you have to travel and see all these cities and just say, hey, let's go eat here, let's do that. You know, I've had a really, really fun career. I've been all over the world. And now I'm just so busy that I'm like, you know what? Hey, you're picking me up at 6? Okay, I'll see you then. And I just shut the door and turn everybody off for a while.
Jeremy?
I mean, that is the way to do it. It's good to be prepared. All right, man purse. So you have the man purse. Do you have the fanny pack? That is the old school wrestler thing. Do you have the fanny pack?
I started off with a fanny pack. I was a fanny pack guy for my 4 years in England. Right after I got released from WWE, I went to England for 4 years. And yeah, I was definitely a fanny packer, but I think, you know, evolution of man bags, you know, they're a little bit better now and there's more pockets and more spaces for everything. You can have your USB plugged into your phone while in your bag. So it's a little bit more practical. And yeah, it's definitely, it's big. It's a little bit bigger. I've seen plenty of these guys have the fanny packs that are the size of a backpack around their waist. And I think that looks kind of ridiculous. So I'd rather have one over my shoulder when I'm going around. So it works perfectly for me right now.
Before anyone points this out, the concept of you saying, I went to the UK for 4 years and I wore a fanny packer, or I was a fanny packer, is definitely...
Yeah, they don't say that there. It's a bum bag. Bum bag is used in the UK. I forgot about that. Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I'll point this out in the chat. A fanny packer in England means something else.
Yes. I will remain. I'll say nothing on the matter there. I wore a bum bag daily.
So this is your third trip to Toronto coming up. Am I right? Your third time doing Demand Lucha?
It's my third time ever in Canada, which is funny.
Wow.
It's really unique because I grew up in Pittsburgh. I started wrestling in Pittsburgh. Most of my independent dates, you know, 14 years ago, were in the Northeast. And literally, you know, a wrestler in our area's first international match would be of Canada. But when I was 21, I signed a WWE contract. So I got shipped down to Florida, and then everything else happened after that. So Canada was kind of like a box left unticked until recently. And, you know, Demand Lucha, they've been putting on these killer shows, some of the best independent talent as well as the best luchadors in Mexico. And then, you know, once the guys realize that, oh my gosh, one of AAA's top heels is 4 hours away, let's make this happen. So it's worked out quite well, and I had a really good time. And it's amazing. I feel like I've missed out on so much because night one in Toronto, you can tell that it's a great wrestling city. The fans, they've been not spoiled, but they've been lucky enough to have great wrestling for 50 years and a variety of great wrestling. So they know what they like and they know what good is. And that just makes it all more special.
Yeah, wrestling in Toronto or being a wrestling fan in Toronto is a very strange situation because we are spoiled in a lot of ways. But when great talent comes through, or you know, passionate promotions build up, you can see the groundswell. And I think, you know, Demand's one of those promotions that's been building over time. So I think it's really neat that you have been coming out here and doing some work with Demand. I hope there's more in the cards.
Yeah, I have a lot more dates with them coming up while I'm here, so it kind of works out well. The fact that they run Thursdays almost makes it, you can almost you can guarantee I'll be there. Right now, I have my main priority is with Lucha Libre AAA, but then my second main priority is with MLW. So those two have, first and second refusal on every date I have. So a lot of times, I can have a date agreed with for, 8 or 10 weeks. Then all of a sudden, 2 weeks before, AAA decides, hey, we're doing a TV show on this day. I have to pull out, which is, it's unfortunate, and I don't like it because I like to give a promoter my word. But at the same time, most of the people I work with, they do understand, and that's kind of where we are as a wrestling climate these days. So it's a good problem to have.
When it comes to the refusal thing, so do you have to check in with them beforehand, or if you book a date and then they're like, "Hey, we're doing this," you just gotta cut that out?
Exactly. So AAA, and this is, with all due respect, and this is a lot of, just the way of the culture south of the border, a lot of things don't work quite the same as they do here. It's a little bit more just kind of, come as it goes kind of thing. And honestly, I can have a date sheet of 24 dates, and I'll avoid all 24 of those dates. Out of those 24 they give me, maybe 16 of them actually occur, and then the other, 8 dates will be completely moved around and different. So it's kind of like the date sheet was obsolete from the start. And a lot of times, just out of nowhere, you can know, okay, hey, it happened to me a few weeks ago. I was supposed to wrestle Eddie Kingston in Chicago, actually Michigan. And about 10 days before the date, they said, hey, Sam, by the way, if you're doing this date on this, I'm booked that day. Like, yeah, I'm sorry, the promoter wanted you. So it kind of is what it is. But like I said, most wrestling promoters now, especially on a bigger level where you're working with the international talent and stuff, you understand it. We're all kind of happy to work together and make things work out. I hate pulling off of shows, but, usually if there's some way I can make it up to them or, get a different date later on down the line, that's the risk you take knowing that you're getting some of these international talents, because at the end of the day, we do have commitments to the people that are making us who we are.
You're teaming with Psycho Clown, who a legend in AAA and just in Lucha in general. What is it like just teaming with that man?
So honestly, and then I was a bit confused when you guys said we were going to talk about being a babyface, because honestly, I'm not a babyface in Mexico. That's satire. That is sarcasm on all my pages.
So is our entire channel, Sam.
Okay. Fair enough. So right now, for the last 2 years, I've been in a strong rivalry with Psycho Clown. I don't know if you guys keep up with AAA TV, but it's been building and building and building. And I know the American wrestling fans like to talk about long-term storytelling, but this is about as long-term storytelling as it's gotten. So this year, Triple Mania is broadcast across 3 events, and the main stipulation that's attached to the whole product as a whole, as the tour, is the Guerra de Rivalidades, which means the War of the Rivals, which is it's kind of like a battle bowl type situation where your tag partner is your rival. So, we've had to work together as a team and try to avoid the losses. So the loser advances. And the last 2 teams in the tournament will end up facing off in a one-on-one hair versus hair, or a mask versus mask, or a mask versus hair match. So I don't know what's going to happen quite yet. I know that things are heating up. We were this past Saturday night in Tijuana, and without question, it was probably the coolest in-ring experience I've ever had. I'm a big fan of 80s and 70s wrestling. I like the old stuff where the fans were just coming unglued. There's still a lot of that in Mexico. And this past Saturday night, it was hot. We were in the middle of that ring and fighting and beating the hell out of each other. And that room was closing in on us. And I just remember being in the moment like, oh my God, this is amazing. Wrestling doesn't have this feeling anymore. And I'm pretty proud of that myself. I think it kind of, it shows you the value of AAA to the Mexican consumers, and the value of Psycho Clown, because he is, as the only way you can really describe him to a non-wrestling fan would be John Cena. And that's, a really, really big accolade, but it's as true as it gets.
Yeah, you mentioned just now the different receptions that you get wrestling in different parts of the world. is Mexico, and Mexico being different from everyone, where else in the world is wrestling like that special that you've experienced?
So me personally, one place I really enjoyed working was Germany, a place called EWP in Hanover, Germany, and they did the old '70s style like catch wrestling. They had a round system. It was a little bit different, and most of that crowd was an older market, so it was a little bit more nostalgic. But the crowd, they enjoyed it. Also, I did 4 tours with All Japan, and the same thing. Those fans that come to All Japan today are the same guys who've been going since 1985 to watch Jumbo Tsuruta and Giant Baba. So a lot of those fans that kind of, they don't really, there wasn't really the turnover like the American fans have. America has always kind of developed each generation. Certain kids love Cena but have no idea who Hulk Hogan is. Certain promotions kind of keep their lineage as part of their production and their storytelling. Mexico, however, it's just it's a little bit deeper than all of them because it's such a major part of the culture, and it's hard to explain. It's almost like a sport. Each little town you go to has a lucha gym. You might not necessarily like wrestling or like lucha, but you might start training in lucha because it's the same way that you might jump into CrossFit or you might start doing cycling. It's just something to do, activity, something to keep you busy. And I think overall, they see it much more as a way to make money, as an opportunity to basically like a trade or a skill, as opposed to doing it as a hobby. And I think, that's kind of where American wrestling and wrestling all over the world has become. Most people that get into it as a hobby, and they just want to do it for themselves and self-gratification. And it continues to grow in a way that, oh, I can make money doing this? Okay, cool. Oh, yeah. And it's almost like a blissful ignorance is costing people money. That some wrestlers could be getting paid so much more, but there's other wrestlers accepting so much less, so it throws off the balance. And down in Mexico, it's such a big business that, you really look at it through different lenses when you're saying, how do I make the most money with this sport? Instead of, what move do I want to do today? What color should I wear this afternoon? So it's very, I can write a whole book on the differences, but that's another podcast entirely. But it's just, Mexico definitely has much more of a passion, and it's ingrained in somebody's heart, because those nights out to the lucha shows might not necessarily be for the to go see the show as much as it's, a night out with the family. And people might have been going for 40 years to the lucha every Sunday just because that's what the family does.
You were on a oh, sorry, Jeremy, go ahead.
I do want to ask about some of the misconceptions when it comes to Lucha Libre, because I don't know if the American audience does and I'm going to be full transparency here. I don't know if I fully understand it all the time, but it's gotten bigger and bigger in America thanks to different partnerships and stuff, and a lot of talk. This past week, we see Commander doing his rope stuff in the match with Jay White. You entered Battle Riot doing a rope walk there. Like, what are some misconceptions when it comes to just Lucha Libre that American fans like, hey, you don't understand this, but for us, like, all of this makes sense?
I think the number one would be that Lucha Libre is more acrobatic. I think there's an American or a North American perception of what Lucha Libre is based on what WCW presented in the 90s. And we think Lucha Libre is Ultimo Dragon, Rey Mysterio, Juventud Guerrero, La Parca, Psychosis. And that is a good portion of it. But at the end of the day, the biggest money drawing matches and the matches people want to see are the fights. So they want to see LA Park or La Parca against Rey Mysterio not flying around. They want to see straight up punches to the face and fighting through the chairs, and just, so at the end of the day, the fight is still what sells. You look at guys like Psycho Clown. There's a lot of critics in the United States that say, oh, they tune into AAA and see Vikingo and Ray Phoenix and these guys and think, oh, that's AAA has the best wrestlers in Mexico. Why is Psycho Clown the main event guy? Oh my God, he's terrible. They don't get it, because if you're really down there and you understand that fight that's in Psycho Clown is much more valuable to any Mexican consumer than the actual high flying that any of those guys do. It's still dramatic. It's still all about that fight and that struggle. And that's why, for the last 30 years, yes, they've had the greatest acrobats and the best, high flyers in history, but a lot of the biggest stars have been Cibernetico, Psycho Clown, Sangre Chicana, Perro Aguayo, Conan himself. And, I think that's something that a lot of American fans need to break the grasp of. They need to understand and open their mind that just because we perceive Lucha Libre as high-flying, fast-paced wrestling doesn't mean that's what Lucha Libre actually is.
On a recent podcast, Wrestling Epicenter, you mentioned that indie wrestling is more lucrative than it's ever been. I want to ask, what do you think that's attributed to?
It's very different things. Depends on how you want to look at independent. It could either be more lucrative or less lucrative depending on how you handle it. I think we are in charge of creating our own brand now. We're able to get ourselves out there and be seen. And you need to understand what your value or what your worth is. Sometimes there's people that could be making a lot of money because they're seen on XYZ TV show. But if that person chooses to go wrestle for a small-time local company and do a hardcore match for $150, they're cutting off their nose to spite their face. We're in control of the amount of money we can make. A lot of wrestlers now are so desperate to stay busy or to appear busy that they will take bookings that they shouldn't take. You should say, okay, this is how much money I need to make this month. Once you make that much money, you shouldn't need to be such, well, I'm off Friday night. I'm going to pick this up because it's only a 3-hour drive from my house. I think there's a lot of good wrestlers are getting bad independence credibility, and a lot of bad independents are taking away good wrestlers into credibility. And I think if there was a little bit more of a line in the sand where people are willing to take a weekend off and just say, you know what, hey, I'm off on Saturday. Cool. Yep, no, I had a good month. I don't need it. Then, I think everything would be a little bit more healthy. But I think at the end of the day, it's such a content-hungry society where people want to put something up today and they want the instant gratification. They want to appear busy. They want the content for Instagram. That they don't realize that sometimes maybe they are cheapening themselves by doing shows that aren't exactly at the level.
I'm going to ask a question from our pal Ryan Sullivan here in the chat. What do you think of Nacho Libre?
I absolutely love that movie. It was like 12 when I came out. Saw it in the theater. I have nothing against it, man. Because a lot of people, there's still to this day, if I meet somebody and through passing, if they, oh, I'm a professional wrestler in Mexico. Oh yeah, like Nacho Libre. And I'm like, yep, that's it. Yeah, and that's kind of what you go with, I'm of the opinion that as wrestlers, we should always be thinking outside the box and trying to get new viewers, not necessarily cater to the million fans we already have. Let's try to get 2 million fans. Let's invite new people, show people that don't understand wrestling what is good about wrestling. So, I think if there's any way you can convince people that, explain something that we do in layman's terms, it's always a positive situation. And as when I do, yes, I do Nacho Libre.
As we start to wrap up here, and thank you for your time, by the way, I want to ask, on your socials, you mentioned that "To Be With You" by Mr. Big is a song that still hits hard with you, and that you're a big Paul Gilbert fan. I'm a big Mr. Big fan. What is it about the song? What is it about the song? And we'll catch it up after. Go ahead.
I would say just the fact that it was like the right place and the right time. I was probably like 2 or 3 years old when that song came out. And that was one of those like awesome songs that I loved growing up. Like 80s hair metal was my stuff. And that was like a ballad. It was a song that like, I want to say that was one of the first songs I knew every word to. So it's kind of sentimental. And then in high school, it was my ringback tone. So everybody that called me, as soon as I picked up the phone, oh, I love that song. Everybody, oh man, I haven't heard that song in years. I love that song. So that's kind of cool. But like I said, Paul Gilbert's from Greensburg, Pennsylvania, or Latrobe, Pennsylvania, which is about 40 minutes from where I grew up. So he's kind of a hometown boy, and it's just one of my jams.
You listened to 1992 from the album they released afterwards?
I don't know about that. I probably have something on my Spotify playlist, but I can't. I'm not like an overall Mr. Big fan as much as I am a fan of that song.
Go listen to that particular song, 1992. It's literally about writing "To Be With You." Oh
man, yes. You might have to tell me something I need to know.
And like the ascent of the band after they wrote that song. But that's a great song. I love "To Be With You." It's one of my favorite ones to play when I was gigging. So that's cool. That's
well,
really cool.
I did a lot of concert security. So when I turned 18, My brother was doing concert security, and one night they needed a body, so they called me. First show I did was the G3 tour, which was Joe Satriani, Ingwe Meldstein, and Paul Gilbert. And we did that, and I was like, oh my God, I'm getting paid to do this concert. And for the next 4 or 5 years, I was seeing gigs all over the place and just watching, Phil Anselmo's band Down was in Pittsburgh. He almost fell off the stage, so I had to like catch him and hold him up, and he got everyone to give me a round of applause for saving his ass, he said. So funny stories like that,
Yeah, having a guy like Phil Anselmo just get on the mic and be like, give it up for that guy over there.
Right. Yeah, exactly. That's my Pantera story.
Oh, wonderful. Sam, plug your stuff. You're going to be, I know, in Toronto for Luchapalooza for Demand Lucha on Thursday, April 27th. Go ahead, give us all the rest.
Thursday, April 27th, Sam Adonis against Drago Kid, one-on-one lucha. Drago Kid's incredible. He does just stupidly crazy acrobatic stuff. So basically, he'll be a softball that I'm trying to swat out of the air all night. And you can find me at Real Sam Adonis on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Has all my dates coming up. I would say about 80% of my stuff right now is in Mexico. I really enjoy and appreciate those who know me from social media and have come to meet me at the rare American independent appearances I do. So please, if you can get a chance, come stop by. I always say I'm one of these guys you have to see in person to really get. There's plenty of, the online wrestling world, people watch their tapes and their GIFs and everything like that. And some people say, well, what's the big deal about Sam Adonis? I see him, he's just a normal style wrestler. What's he do? You got to be there. And then once you're like, oh, that's what it is. And I think there's a lot of testimony about that from, wrestling fans across the country. So if you can, come check me out somewhere. If you can make this Thursday in Toronto, please do. And if not, just follow me on social media, and hopefully I get to meet a bunch of you soon enough.
Sam, thank you so much.
Sam. Yeah, we really appreciate
you guys. I appreciate
you doing this. Thank you. Have a good day.
No worries, guys. You have a good one. Later.